Bonjour, I'm Luka with l'Atelier du Français, and today we're going to discover a French icon. An icon is a person who is adored for having immense influence over a specific scope. And today we're exploring the man who launched fashion into the new millennia. On y va? Have you ever heard of the legendary French icon Yves Saint Laurent? No? Let's talk about him. In 1936, Yves Saint Laurent was born in Algeria by French parents. Growing up, Yves Saint Laurent had it rough as he was shy, awkward, and unathletic. He was unfortunately the target of much bullying at school as he was interested in neither sports or socializing with his peers, but incredibly interested in fashion. A passion which was always encouraged by his doting mother, who reportedly claimed that as a little boy, Yves Saint Laurent would always cry if he didn't like what his mother was wearing. Then, as a young teenager, Yves Saint Laurent had started creating dresses for his mother and two little sisters. At 18 years old, Yves Saint Laurent moved to Paris to study at la Chambre Syndicale de la Haute Couture. Here he would catch the eye of the editor-in-chief of Vogue France, Michael de Brouoff, who would introduce him to none other than the legendary Christian Dior. Christian Dior was quick to hire Yves Saint Laurent, even entrusting him as his successor after death. After the unfortunate death of Christian Dior, he quickly became the head creative director of Maison Dior. Here, Yves Saint Laurent was able to revitalize the brand, and all at the young age of 21, mind you. While Yves Saint Laurent worked at Dior, he met the beautiful Ala Ilchan, a woman with a strikingly beautiful face and a noteworthily slim body, which naturally made her a sensation. Ala Ilchan worked with him for nearly 2 decades and became the first Asian top model in Europe. This would be the beginning of Yves Saint Laurent's quest to make the fashion world a more diverse place for everyone involved. Yves Saint Laurent truly had some groundbreaking ideas during his time at Dior, and his future looked incredibly bright. That was, of course, until he was drafted to serve in the Algerian French army in 1960. Here he would suffer from the severely violent hazing from his fellow soldiers. He served for 20 days before this hazing caused him to be admitted into a hospital which constantly drugged and electrocuted him, an unfortunate and cruel series of events that would psychologically torment him for the rest of his life. To make matters worse, this is when the House of Dior fired Yves Saint Laurent as the creative director. Fortunately, his partner in both business and romance, Pierre Berger, was able to get him discharged from this hospital and successfully sued House of Dior for what would roughly be, in today's money, $1.5 million. Berger would use this money and personally secure all other necessary funds with his business savvy to help Yves Saint Laurent launch his own fashion house. Berger and Saint Laurent set up their first boutique in the 6th arrondissement of Paris at 21 Rue de Torrent in year 1966. The boutique was called Rive Gauche. Finally, Yves Saint Laurent had the freedom to creatively push the boundaries of fashion without constraint. This also marks the moment in history when Yves Saint Laurent became the very first couturier to create a ready-to-wear line and shop. This is an extremely important moment in fashion because for the first time ever, luxury designer clothing was available to buy off the rack. Now, instead of going through a long fitting and tailoring process with the fashion house, the clientele can simply walk into a store, choose the clothes that are the best size for their body, and leave the store the same afternoon purchase in hand. Perhaps this is something we take for granted today, but you have to understand that this was a monumental change for the time because it made fashion more accessible and less exclusive. Today, many fashion houses like Chanel and Dior have ready-to-wear collections, but it is important to remember who is behind the creation of this fusion between haute couture and la style de la rue, the innovative Yves Saint Laurent. Other groundbreaking creations by Yves Saint Laurent include the Mondrian dress, which is probably the work of art most deserving of recognition. While fashion is, of course, a form of art in its own right, this is the first collection to combine the art you would see hanging in a museum with clothing, with the possible exception of Schiaparelli's extravagant and at times borderline surreal designs. Art and fashion have never been mixed, and then entered Yves Saint Laurent. Created in 1966, Yves Saint Laurent designed this simple, straight silhouette with a rather minimalistic design. Almost all of the dress is white, but has simple lines which form occasional colored boxes. And just like every other creation by Yves Saint Laurent, this series of cocktail dresses became an instant sensation. One reason why these dresses were so incredibly popular is that they completely embodied the spirit of the 1960s by promoting the idea that individuals can use the clothes which they put on their backs as a form of self-expression. As you can see, this dress was created during the swinging 60s, a time that truly personified the color of life and pop art. This dress is above all else a symbol of Yves Saint Laurent's desire to bring art, creativity, and individualistic personality into the wardrobes of women all around the world. But even more revolutionary than the Mondrian collection was Yves Saint Laurent's Le Smoking. Introduced in 1966, Le Smoking destroyed all social and gender norms in fashion and will forever have an iconic place in fashion history. By creating the first suit with pants for women, Yves Saint Laurent completely redefined women's evening wear, but also what femininity means in fashion. The suit has a sleek, minimalistic, modern aesthetic that made a very political statement regarding equality for women. And what's more, in the promotional photos, Yves Saint Laurent chose to feature a completely naked woman next to the one wearing the tuxedo, an action that additionally pushed the barriers of what is deemed as vulgar or tasteful. Nudity would become a common theme in his shows and promotional advertisements, as he believed that there was nothing more beautiful than a naked body. After the smoking was cemented as the most essential piece of work, Pierre Berger once famously said in reference to his partner, "Chanel may have given women liberty, but Saint Laurent gave them power." The drastic innovation to clothing itself is not the only radical change Yves Saint Laurent made to the fashion industry. He was the very first designer to feature African models, which was a highly risky decision because it was seen as a highly political action in Europe at the time. African models like Kutucha Nyan, Munia Ormosen, and Emilia Verelli became important to his vision of a diverse future. Everything he did was in service of women, so naturally he wanted to create clothes for all women. This brilliant progressive designer is the reason black women are being put on the world stages and are being promoted as top models today. In fact, the very reason why Yves Saint Laurent retired was because he did not like the direction the fashion industry was taking, no longer serving women, but instead using them for all the wrong things. Then, tragically, in 2008, Yves Saint Laurent had died of head cancer. The funeral was in Paris, where crowds of people gathered to say goodbye to the greatest creator of the 20th century. His partner, Pierre Berger, donated over 300 million euros to AIDS research in Yves Saint Laurent's name and created a foundation to preserve the legacy of Yves Saint Laurent, his business partner, friend, and lover. Additionally, his death highlighted important topics of conversation, such as mental health, addiction, and the stress of the all-too-toxic fashion industry. The death of Yves Saint Laurent left a big void in the fashion world, as he was truly one of the most innovative and creative minds of the time. As he once so famously said, "Fashions fade, but style is eternal." This is something that is particularly true to the life of Yves Saint Laurent, as his works and legacy will always remain eternal. Thank you so much for watching this week's video of French icons with L'Atelier de Français. If you enjoyed watching this video, please like and subscribe.